during the ratification debates, the argument was that the court would be the weakest of all three branches of the government. Alexander Hamilton wrote an entire essay in the Federalist talking about the fact that the court would be relatively powerless. It would be just deciding cases. And we now have a situation where the court has effectively become the lawmaking body in the United States, where it's dictating minute policy at the local level.
Why do you think that is, though?
Why do I think that is?
Yeah.
Because people like it that way.
Yeah.
People like it. They like being able to, there's this sense that if we can just control 5 judges, then we can basically have our policy imposed across the entire United States.
But is it how the Congress writes the laws that it allows for that type of interpretive power? Or is it just because as humans we have a little bit of an authority bias that we want to give power over to individuals or oligarchies? I mean, where does that where does that line up? I'm just trying to find that portion of it out.
Well, personally, I think it has to do with just the dynamics of how government has changed over the last. I mean, there's always been this jockeying for power among the Congress and the president and the courts, and then you can look at the states and local. I mean, there's always power. Anytime there's power, people with power want more power, and they want to fight over, who gets to have the most power. And it just so happens that the nature of the court has allowed it to accumulate the most power. For one thing, you can't get rid of them; they're not accountable to anybody. And for another thing, in many cases, Congress, which is supposed to be the most powerful branch of the government, Congress has usurped its responsibility because it can pass things off and say, "Oh well, we can't do anything here because the court said." And they can shift responsibility, and they've shifted a lot of responsibility to the executive branch. So now we effectively have an elected king and an oligarchy of judges who effectively dictate policy for 320 million Americans. And I quite frankly think that's a really bad system of government. I think it's horrible. If you just look at the hue and cry that we have right now, we have this one vacant seat on the Supreme Court, whoever it may belong to. And everybody is like, I mean, there are people that literally, they've taken it to the hyperbole level of this is life or death. It's not a good system when an unelected, unaccountable lawyer who is really just a government employee has this much power over over any group of people.
Yep.